Ironwood Games. This is Andrew. Welcome to today's episode. We are doing a Phantom Sealed Phyrexia All Will Be One. So this is the midweek event, which I appreciate that they're either always or generally free to enter. So I usually don't like Phantom events if they cost an entry fee. Just because I want to get something for my my gold and my hard work, but a free Phantom event um, where you get maybe a card or two and some prize support on this. I think this is a good event. So these are the rares we opened. So we got 3 lands. The Myrix, which adds a land and creates mites. So we could go toxic with that. We have the Argentum Masticore. I haven't seen this one yet, so let's see. 5 mana, first strike for 5/5, first strike for 5, protection from multicolored. It's something. I don't know how relevant it is in this set. Let's see. At the beginning of your sacrifice unless you discard a card. When you discard a card this way, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to the mana value of the discarded card. So that's decent. As lets you get 1-for-1s. I mean, it's just straight up removal and then sack it at something. So recursion, sacrifice payouts would be good on it. Card draw would be good to have things to discard on that. So thinking in like black-red sacrifice, maybe some John's Toxic sacrifice things. And then we have the Staff of Completion. Pay 1 life, destroy target permanent you own. So again, if we're looking for maybe the sacrifice deck or dies triggers, that could be decent. Pay 2 life, add 1 mana of any color. So that's really good for fixing if we do end up in 3 colors here. Pay 3 life to proliferate, which is decent if we're going like toxic. Izuri definitely works with. We played with him before in the Brawl challenge last week, so he's definitely interesting. He wants to cost 7 because you really want to get that proliferate on it. I wish if it was 4 proliferate once, 7 proliferate twice, I think it would be a much better card. You'd be willing to pay, I think, the 4 more often. If you have enough proliferate triggers, I think the drawing cards is really good. But if you don't and you're really trying to proliferate into a poison win or something, the fact that Azuri doesn't proliferate and only gives you card advantage when you do it is kind of bad. Even if it was like 5 for a proliferate one and then 7 for proliferate twice, I think would be a better card. I don't know on costing on that. Anyways, pay 4 life to draw a card. So that could be decent when we said we need cards to discard here, and then 5 mana to untap the Staff of Completion. So drawing, going lots of lands, maybe some late game stuff. Let this guy clear out the board, and then presumably he attacks in with first strike all the time. So let's see what else we've got. Those were our rares. Let's see. Is there... How do I... There is a way to do this, and I don't remember how. That I like to see it. Okay, that's better. That's... Alright, gonna help us a little bit. So, it's been a while since I've done a sealed on here, and I'm trying to think how we're gonna kind of lay this out and look at it. I think these are all sorted by color. So just looking for anything that stands out on that. I think that one's interesting. In like the toxic, if you're going like green white toxic or something. That can definitely be good if you're going like proliferate. That word is gonna kill me. This is some basic removal. Charge of the Mites, if you go wide, is actually a really good card. Flinting Raptor is good. That's can be good in kind of white go wide toxic. That's a decent creature. And that blade is mid, as the children would say. I'm hip. Bringing the end. Ichor Synthesizer. You cast a non-creature spell. So that one's decent. Oops. I wanted to scroll up and down and it doesn't. Chrome Prowler is interesting. Eye of Malcator. Scry 2. And then it becomes, so you're wanting to play artifacts, which you can. I don't know if we have enough to be able to do that. Mesmerizing Dose is good. Another counter. +1/+1. And then non-creature spells. So again, going spells with Drake. Synthesizer can be good. I don't know if we have enough support for that. This does help with spells. Puts a card back on top. This one's pretty good. It's 5 mana for a 5/5 that can crew itself. Basically one time if you're proliferating. That's decent to just be able to crew itself. 5 mana though is a little steep for what it gets. It does have vigilance, so I'm not sure. Blister Zoa. Okay, again, proliferate spells. We've got kind of in blue here. A Skull Bomb, Duress, Whispers. I think that one's good if we're wanting to proliferate. This is good for toxic. Poison counters. This is fine for recursion. This is a good spell. This is what we want if we're doing like artifact sack things. This is a sack outlet. The question is, we need a payoff. Something else that triggers when we sacrifice things. Here's a dies trigger. It is fine. I think this one is fine, but nothing special. Fusling. That's interesting. I don't know how good he is. Hexgold Slash is pretty good. Sawblade Scamp is fine. These ones, these Batter Fists, I think are pretty good equipment. We did get 2 of them, like Sawblade Scamp, Batter Fist is a decent early aggro kind of start. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target artifact an opponent controls. This can be decent. There's enough artifact creatures and other things that we can pretty consistently have a target, but I don't know if it's always online and always that great. Okay, this wants to go oil, indestructible, and then infinity for equipment. I think that one's 3 mana for 5 damage. Is pretty good. Volt Charge I really do like. Whether you're in Proliferate or not, I think it's a decent spell if you have anything to proliferate. Again, oil, toxic. There's enough ways to have just incidental proliferate triggers that are good. This is good, again, if we're able to sacrifice creatures, stealing our opponent's creature and then sacking it. always fun. Creates an extra goblin, another body to sack. 5 mana for 5 damage or destroying an equipment. That seems expensive. But getting rid of the equipment sometimes can be good. Alright, another Skull Bomb. Thirsting Roots. I do like this card a lot. We only got one of them. One of my pre-release, I had 2 Thirsting Roots, 2 Terramorphic Expanse, and going 3 colors was pretty easy. Or that might have been a draft I did last week. Either way, it was pretty easy to get mana fixing pretty consistently and have the colors you needed. Branchblight Stalker is good for the toxic. Ruthless Predation is always good. Spore Singer is... I think its modes are pretty good if you've got Proliferate triggers. Top 4, we have a land card from them. Didn't put a card in this way. Proliferate, I think that's good. It gives you something if you don't grab something. This is actually a good card. It is fine. 3 mana for a 3/3 toxic 1. And then eventually, once they get corrupted, you can play it with flashback. So it gets better, and it's doesn't matter when you cast it if they have corrupted. It's at some point when it's in your graveyard, you get to flash it back. Plague Nurse is good if you're going against toxic. I like this guy as a top-end finisher. I don't think he's maybe not always amazing. Like the toxic 6, you have to hit the player. You need a way to get trample or flying on it. Tyvar's Stand is good. And then we've got our lands. Slaughter Singer, I really do like. I think the green-white going wide strategy can be pretty good if you can get enough toxic creatures. We might look at that first, like with Mirix. And see. Let's see. One or more oil. Put an oil counter on it. So this is really good for oil. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think Scry 2 is good. Giving your opponent Scry 1, not sure. For 3 mana on a 2/3, I don't know. It's costed. And then here, I think Atlas is interesting. Good for fixing if you're going poison. Staff of Completion we already looked at. Mirror card. I don't know if there's enough mirror that we've got going on here, so let's see. We want Argentum Masticore, I think. I'm gonna put in what I think are the better things. I'm gonna look at our red-white. I think Expanse is fine if we're trying to splash. So this does give trample, which, like, for our... Where are you at? Big guy. I don't know where he went now. Paladin of Predation. Right? Really good to get him trample. And then get the Toxic 6, which could be a finisher. So that might be worth it just for the off chance of being able to like trample some damage over some toxic. This one gives flying, so similarly, I think both of those would be really good. I kind of want to focus on some toxic creatures. Go in. And things that want to go with Toxic. So this would be, this is 38. It's got a lot of lower things, but that's because of our Skull Bombs, Thirsting Root, the Dancer. We want to get our opponent corrupted pretty easily. The question is, we've got a little bit of room. The Argentum Masticore, I don't know if it's... So if it had haste, you could get to swing with it. If it doesn't, we don't have a lot of like high things. If we like discard a land, it doesn't destroy anything. If we discard like 1s and 2s, it doesn't do anything. And we're probably more often than not going to be just sacking it on the next turn. And so I think I'm thinking, and I'm going to look at maybe removing that for like a little bit more black removal, like a Death Touch creature, I think is just a little bit better for 6. Forces them to discard. Do that. We have Vraska's Fall is interesting because it gives the poison counter, and I think it can be good if they have small, big creatures. If they're going wide, I think it's not as good, and I'm not sure where we want on it. I want to be able to splash real light on the black, so that's part of why I'm kind of trying to keep some, like, I don't mind the 6 mana coming in at the end on that, and I have 2 of those. The Testament Bearer, again, being a late card coming in, looking at the top 3 cards, letting you dig into kind of what you need, I think is probably better than Vraska's Fall. Just worried. Fall is really good early on if you can kind of keep the board and manage to get them to sack something decent. Later on, if we're struggling for black and we don't have that early on, like, and they've got some mites or other stuff, I think it's just less good. I think getting rid of a creature is still fine, but I'd rather have Ossification, which I think we're still going to put in. We're going to look at Charge of the Mites. I'm going to put these guys in, and we're going to go look at it and see, because we could cut the black altogether. So let's go take a look at what we got. All right, Tyvar's is not really 1 mana. It's going to save a creature, do something. The rest of these are fine. The Swooping Lookout is interesting. I don't think we need it. So we have essentially 3 black cards. We're at 44. I think with Terramorphic Expanse, we could add... Oh, I should add, if we're going to play the black... oh, we didn't... I thought we had black-green. No, we've got black-red and red-green. We're not playing the Adaptive Spore Singers, the other ones we could bring in. And or we could play Phyrexia and Atlas. Let me bring that in, because that would help with fixing a little bit. So if we got rid of Swooping Lookout, because that's definitely over. Even if we cut the black, that's just 3 cards, and now we're at 41. If we cut the black, we'll cut the Atlas. I don't think we need to spend turn 3 on fixing if we're just in 2 colors. So what's kind of the plan? And I think the plan is get our opponent to 4+ Toxin, Paladin of Predation with a flying or trample to finish them off. I don't think we're trying to proliferate into a win. I think it's just toxic creatures and go for it. We've got some proliferate options. I like Charge of the Mites. I think I do want to keep that. So we're at 44. If we wanted to cut 4 cards, I'll probably cut a Swamp for a Plains at the end too, even if we keep these 3. We could cut the Testament Bearer. It's a 4/1. It doesn't add to our plan. It lets us dig. When it dies, it lets us be a little bit aggressive at the end, or trade for something bigger, but I'm not sure. So let's go back through. I think a 3/1 with potential for indestructible is good. We're not doing a lot of proliferate. So getting more oil counters is probably unlikely. This with the number of toxic creatures, I think can be good. The other part I am concerned, we do have 15. We aren't too light. We're a little light on creatures, but not too light. So I don't mind getting rid of a few. The Bladed Ambassador doesn't have toxic, right? So it doesn't go with that. It doesn't get targeted by the Flincing Raptor. Neither is the Courageous Vorak. Or the Contagious Vorak, sorry. Digging into a land isn't bad. We don't have too high of a curve. I think this, we want to be aggressive with Toxic. So I think this lets us be aggressive along with the Plague Nurse. So I think those are fine. I'm going to cut the Bladed Ambassador. I think it's interesting, but we're not doing oil. We're not really doing proliferate. This is just going to be removal. This is a combat trick. This is removal. So that gives us a few things to do. A couple of ways to sneak in some wins. This can be removal or advancing the board. So what I'm thinking is, and I don't know, I could be wrong on this thought, but I think the Contagious Vorak is 3 mana 3/3 that lets you look for a land. Is Phyrexia and Atlas, 3 mana artifact, taps for a land, gonna deal damage over time if we've got enough toxic, and probably deals more than 3 damage, which this gets in for once for 3 or trades for something. We've got other removals, so I'm gonna pull it out. Again, we're not really on the proliferate warpath. We're gonna try and get in with toxic damage and real damage here. So alright, that puts us at 42. And this is, we could just cut a swamp. 6, 12, 14, 15, 16. Are we already at 16 lands? No, we're at 17 lands. What am I missing my count? Oh, if we cut, we would be at 16, right? Which would put us at 41. I'd still like to make one more cut. And I think I'm just torn on this Testament Bearer. I think digging to look for something is really good. Because we just get whatever the best thing is, and if not, we're closer to getting what we need or a good card to win. We could cut a Cruel Grimnarch. It's likely our opponent is out of cards to discard, just discarding land at that point. And I don't need to know if we need 2 of them. We could cut a Skull Bomb, but I think having multiple ways to get in kind of some final toxic damage, like our Plague Nurse has toxic too. Again, the Paladin. Do we have other things with higher toxic? Here we've got a toxic 2, toxic 2. So there's enough things that I think sneaking in some toxic is fine. Thirsting Roots, I like both options on it. Staff of Completion. So the question is, right, what are the modes that I would use here? And when is it good enough? So pay 3 life, proliferate. I think if our opponents we can get them to 9 toxic, or 9 poison, puts us over. Pay 4 life to draw a card if we need, to get a finisher or something. But these aren't insignificant costs. Paying 2 life to add a mana, the Phyrexian Atlas lets us add mana of any color. And so I don't know that we have anything we want to destroy, so I'm thinking that might be... we don't necessarily need multiple fixing sources. We don't have doubles. The only double is Paladin. So colors shouldn't be a problem. It's a mythic, and I hate to cut it. I feel like, oh, it's got to be good, and I think it can be. But I don't see pay 3 life, proliferate being a huge factor enough times. We don't have oil or other things that we really need to do. Paying 6 to 9 life could be really, really costly. And so we're either already on a path to win or we're on a path to lose, and helping our opponent out there. And then paying 4 life to draw a card, I think, is interesting, but I just don't know if it's worth it. We can sack spell bombs to draw cards. And the Testament Bearer lets us dig. So, yeah, we're going to cut it. Okay. And that puts us at 41. We cut a swamp, and I think we go to 16 lands. It's a little bit light on it, but we have, for the most part, we're at 4. We have a couple of 5s and a 7. Or, I'm sorry, a couple of 6s and a 7. And again, we're trying to get it enough. We've got enough ways to kind of slow it down. We're trying to get in all this toxic, where either we've gone long enough, we've traded enough stuff, we've got it away, and we clear for a big hit, or we put something down, something big, they take care of it, and they still die to the smaller stuff. I'm trying to keep them out of options. So I think we can do it. I'd rather be a little light than a little heavy on land, and I do think we're low enough in some of the things we can do here that we can take it. All right, so we're going to call that our deck. And let's see if we can get a match in here for you guys. All right. AAA, BBB, CCC, that's our opponent. All right. So Mirix does do a little bit of color fixing as well the turn it comes in. We can, at this point, we have 1, 2, 3. So I don't think there's a reason to send this back. Again, we can get color fixing if we do desperately need a white on a particular turn. But I think we've got 3 turns to draw another land. Oh, sure. Okay. Duress is good. They take Ruthless Predation. Which is fine. It's one of our removals. It's pretty good. We did draw another land. Unfortunately, it was a forest. But here we go. I think 3/1 Toxic 2 on board is decent. Our opponent has knowledge, knows what we have. Next turn, it's a Atlas. Well, we may actually Flincing Raptor off the Mirix to give him flying, depending on what my opponent puts down. Or they may just get rid of something, which seems fine. So I think we do just Atlas. Based on what my opponent is doing, looks like they've so far been playing removal, some other things, so playing a little bit more control-y deck. Which could be fine. The Proliferate trigger does nothing for us right now. Or to us. So I think we're just going to kind of stick with the plan. As is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So next turn we can play the Grimnarch. I think we just play out. We lose the value on it, but I think having a Toxic 1 creature in the air puts pressure on our creature or our opponent. And the goal is, knowing our opponent is playing some kind of control, they likely have some counters and other things, and so getting a presence on the board, a threat, if they have to keep mana up to stop other things, or if they're using all of their kind of removal right away, I think that's fine. My turn, sure. I'm just gonna play out the Grimnarch. They'll have to discard one of their 2 cards. Which, again, if they're... Ruthless Predation. Okay. If they're trying to play a little control-y, and that, I think the card advantage is good for us. Yes, please, 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 please bounce this back to our hand. I would love to play it again and force you to sack your other card. Okay, they just drew a card. So likely they'll be taking... do I have enough to do all that? And then I can start creating my mites. Okay, so I think if we attack for 5... I don't know if we have enough to do it right now. So we have to use 4 mana for this. But then we return the Grimnarch. We get a Might. Our opponent knows about the Mirix. So we can play the Mirix out. And then next turn we can play the Grimnarch. forcing them to discard a card. If our opponent has a counter or something, they'll want to keep it up for Grimnark. If they have a land, they'll have kept a land to discard to it. Oh, beautiful. Which I think is fine. So we're just gonna... So here's the question. Because we can make the mites, I think we just stick with the board and let our control opponent hold mana up. Oh, Nissa. Very good. Alright, so they're going to try and probably destroy something. Off of -1 is my guess. Oh, okay. Now they're going to make a 4/4. And equip it, that's fine. We will... pass to attackers. There we go. We will make a might. Beautiful. Okay, so my opponent is tapped out. So I do want to force them to discard their last card. So we can sack this, I think. Instead, we put another spell bomb out, and we have 8 in the air, so it doesn't matter if they make another creature, if they destroy one of our pieces.
Welcome, my companion.
Because we can double spell bomb to give 2 things flying. Depending on what my opponent drew, again, if they have some kind of removal or something, then we might be a little bit in trouble. So I think, though, since that makes it a 7, I think we just attack with the flyer in the air. And then we have other stuff to do there. So, alright, so we did it. We got there for this first game. Fun, fun, fun. The deck, it was maybe a little iffy. It needed to draw well, but it did draw. Ooh, let's see what we got. Welcoming Vampire. Cool, cool. It did draw what we needed it to do. It did exactly what we wanted. Since we drew into lands, we drew into some big guys, and that was good. I think if we hadn't, and we had just gotten a lot of smaller guys, we would have gone wide, and we would have been able to keep hitting our opponent for some Toxic, and might have been able to get there off of that as well. This is now the opposite side, where I've got these 2 guys, and I really want to get them both out, and the Murex only lets me splash one of them in, and then doesn't let me splash the Cruel Grimnark. I'm going to send it back. I think we have better... Yeah, sure, we'll keep this. I think we have better hands. I definitely don't need a second swamp. So the land is nice, but I don't need the swamp. Thirsting Roots is fine. It puts it in my hand, and I don't need lands yet, so I'm just going to play out a Skull Bomb. Sinew Dancer is good. Cool. Okay. Don't mind taking 1. It's not toxic. It's fine. I think we play our Slaughter Singer. The next turn we can play our Atlas. And then we can play both of these out. We can do different things. Does our opponent have a trick? No. The answer is no. Toxic 1 loses to Toxic 2. Yeah, no blocks. I'm willing to take a poison. Yeah. I'm thinking they'll probably have a creature or something to block with. That's fine. We're still gonna do it. I don't mind doing if they want to double block, trading 2 for 1. And yeah, okay. So in this +1, yeah, in this case, it's still a 2 for 1. So I think it's fine. We play out Atlas. We for sure have 4 mana next turn. Do we Thirsting Roots just to get... I think we do. We'll get a forest because that's the only double green we have. So that way we, for sure, no matter what lands we draw, we know we have green. And we're going to do that now just to use our mana effectively. Alright, we're going to take a little bit of Toxic. That's fine. We'll start with the Testament Bearer. Just because we do get that extra might off of the Attendant if we can... Oh, it's another permanent you control. I could have returned the Spell Bomb or something. Alright, that's my bad for not reading. But again, I'm happy to trade here. I can't take down the Flyer. Ooh. That is unfortunate. Our opponent has a good Corrupted deck. They're going to get to kill our thing. But either way, we do get to look for something. I think we take the big creature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can play him out next turn. And then we can start to block. We could have popped that for a card, but I don't think we wanted to. This will force our opponent to discard their last card, so which would have been problematic for us. And now our opponent doesn't have good attacks. We'll pick off the Mere Convert if they attack with it. If they attack here and they're willing to pump or do something, sure, I'll take that trade. Otherwise, they can go in for 1. We got a 4-turn clock on the Pestilence Siphoner, which we do have to figure out a way to deal with, because the flying is going to ultimately will kill us. Cool. Another Planeswalker. Okay, you draw a card, you lose 1 life. Proliferate. And then just becomes a treasure. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Sack our creature to the treasure. Or are we? Is it just a... No, because we can return it off of this. Yeah, this is a pain. The problem is, and very genuinely the problem is, Vraska's 0 proliferates, which puts us at 9. This puts us to 10, and we are dead. If our opponent doesn't see that, so we can block here, but then we take the 4, I think we're dead anyway. I think there's very unlikely our opponent doesn't see all of this. Or didn't see at least one of these 2 lines. So we have to block here. I think, yeah, they proliferate for it. Alright. They got there. Their deck just a little bit more solid than ours. Planeswalkers definitely help. I think we did well on that. I don't think it was bad. Having to mulligan down was not great, but I think that first hand definitely was not a winner. Let's try one more. Let's see, I know we're getting a double episode today. I usually try and do 30 minutes, but kind of the deck building discussion took about 30, so we're going to try and get a few matches in here for you. And give you maybe an hour today on that. I know, the things I do for you guys. Yeah, we have the Branch Blight. We have other stuff to do. I'm going to keep this. We just need to draw one more land. We're on the draw. So we've got 2 or 3 turns to draw a land. Sure. Duress actually doesn't bother me that much. Yeah, they'll get rid of Tyvar's Stand. I don't have a lot to do with it right now anyways. So we're going to just search for the basic land. We're just going to grab one of the swamps since we only have 2. Make sure we have it just in case we need it. Our opponent can see everything we have. The Duress was good, but again, mostly creatures. Not too bad. We did get the Paladin of Predation, which means not getting a second forest could be a little problematic. But I think we've got time to figure that problem out. Because he's still at 7. So we've got to draw more lands. And if we don't draw a forest in the next... when we draw 4 lands and not another forest, then that's just bad luck. Again, we'll see what our opponent has. I like the Branch Blight Stalker. The picture makes me feel like it should have reach. But I don't know that I would trade because, again, the 2 toxic beats the 1 toxic. Sure. A second Duress gets rid of our viral spawning. But like we said, that does get better if we can poison our opponent. And the Flensing Raptor will now give my Branch Blight Stalker flying. Which will... and +1/+1, most importantly, which will then beat... Ooh, okay, that's fine. We will trade. So what would have maybe been advantageous for my opponent turned into a 2-for-1 for us. And I'm fine with that. I still have the 2/2 flying toxic 1 on board. I have an agent for next time. Here, I'll just play the second forest so we don't forget. Here we go. We will send in 1 in the air. We're going to attack first because we get the value out of it and we can still return it. If we play this out first and we don't attack, we lose 2 damage and 1 poison. And then next turn we can give this Might flying and swing in for another couple of damage. Remove all counter when you do target creature gains your choice flying. Oh, this one's good. Okay. Lifelink. Sure. I think we'll play the Terramorphic and crack it. And we'll just go get target creature with Toxic, yeah. We're gonna do this one because even at 4, he wouldn't take out both of them if they do decide to double block. And they wouldn't then kill this anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. So put this one through so I get a little more damage and toxic. So put some more poison on my opponent here. They are... Aha, so viral spawning is now online. So as we said, that gets better once we get them corrupted. So having discarded it wasn't necessarily too bad. Our opponent is running out of gas decently. Or decently quickly. So I think we're in a good spot to win this one. Which will be good. We can go out on a win for you guys. None of it matters. Oh, and our opponent's going to quit. I was going to get the plains for the colors, but then I realized I have a plains in hand. I should get the forest. I want to go finish this here. I have the plains in hand. I should get the forest, so if there's a chance of getting enough that some future turn we can like paladin and viral spawning, or if we draw more green cards. It's very unlikely. It shouldn't matter what colors we have, but I think because we have the plains in hand, we don't need the second swamp whatsoever. At 4, 6, and 6, we're not going to play 2 black spells a turn. So I think getting the forest there would have been the right thing. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely had fun with this one. I think we built a pretty good deck, given what we had. We lost a couple of times to some planeswalkers. But that's all right. So thanks for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't to the channel yet. Subscribe for more videos. Leave us a comment, especially if there's any misplays or things that I could have done differently. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you think of a different build or would look at this pool and you saw something I overlooked. Maybe I'm undervaluing or overvaluing some cards. Please let me know. We're all trying to learn here together and improve. So until next time, see ya.